Louder! What's up, everybody, and welcome back to hyPODermic, the pod that sticks you deep. I'm the pod boss, TJ Bowser, and joining me, as always, is the man himself, the maestro of mayhem, the dawn of disaster, Mr. Nick Benson. Buddy, we are back.
It's about time, right?
Yes.
It's been a minute. You had to move. I had some technical stuff I had to work out. I think we got it figured out.
Yeah, but we are back. We are better than ever. We have some sponsorship stuff that's coming up, and we're excited to share that with you very, very soon. We got some conventions coming up, but more importantly, this week's episode, and we have a special guest. Nick, I will let you introduce him. Go for it, buddy.
So this gentleman, I met him, believe it or not, during the pandemic, and we did what was called Virtual Con, I think is how we met. It was a British convention that was done virtually, and John and I were both guests, and I attended his Q&A, and I believe he attended mine, and we just really enjoyed talking to each other since. And fellow musician, really, really good actor. I just love this guy. So without further ado, John Tague, everybody.
Wow, thank you for that. That was awesome. Thank you so much. This is high tech. You guys got a nice little setup going.
Yeah, well, thank you. We tried. So, John.
Yeah.
I kind of did the brief intro of how we met and all, but this is really about what makes you you. How did you get here? I know everything up into at least from the point where you made your film,
right?
On, and we'll get to that. But I want to start with what led you down this path. Did you start a musician? Did you start an actor? How did you decide? What inspired you? Those kinds of things.
Well, what had happened was I was a terrible, terrible student in school. I was horrible. And the only thing that I could really, excel at were the arts. I was good at drawing. Yeah. And a lot of my neighborhood friends, I had a big, kind of neighborhood friend group. We were very feral, very, running around the woods, shooting bottle rockets at each other and bows and arrows. And then when got bored with that, we decided, well, let's start a band. So I ended up being the bass player in this little band that the neighborhood kind of threw together. And I really got into it. And it was something that I really connected to and really enjoyed doing. And, since I was such a crap student, I didn't pay any attention to anything else really, except for music. And then when it came time, to kind of start figuring out what to do with my life, I wanted to go into music and be in a band. And I was in a couple of high school bands, and then I landed in this one high school band that actually did pretty well for a little while. But it wasn't really my style of music so much. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't really my style. It was a Grateful Dead cover band. And I was more of a kind of new wave, kind of alternative bass player. But the fun thing about being in that band was when I was, 17 years old, I was playing in clubs in New York City. I was, touring all up and down New Jersey, playing shows, and that's kind of how I started kind of getting into being in the arts and being an artist. And then what happened after that? Oh, and then by some miraculous thing, I got into college. I guess, I was put on this kind of probationary thing that if I got a certain grade point average, I could stay at school, but I had to do it within the first semester. If my grades dipped below 2.0, I'm out.
Right.
And it was there that I got introduced to theater. And that's where I saw, the first play, the first real drama that I've ever really seen done on a stage. And they asked me to run the audio for it because they didn't have an audio guy. And I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. And this is also where all the, the cute girls are. And I just kind of fell in love with it. And then next thing I knew, I started auditioning for the plays and getting cast in lead roles. And then summertime would come around and I go back and do the band again, and then go back to college, go back, do the band, go back, back and forth for that was spanned over like a 5-year period. And then I decided that I probably would be better suited as an actor than being in a band, because the band at that point was fried. We were burned out. We were playing the same crap for 5 years.
Sure.
And I just
nothing new, nothing inspiring kind of thing.
No, I mean, it was just, we had gigs booked ahead of time. Okay, we're going to do this next summer. And okay, I guess we're roped in to do that. Mm-hmm. And, so, it was cool. And when you're a kid, it's fun, but when it becomes like, oh, this is kind of jobby job, it's kind of like lugging around that bass rig, that big PV. I got a big PV Centurion, Mark III from 1986 with a big Black Widow cabinet.
You're preaching to the choir. I got an Ampeg SVT. The thing's huge.
Massive. Yeah, man. I mean, after a while, you're just like, God, I can't lug this crap around anymore. Now I have a nice SansAmp DI. That's
nice.
I'm never playing through an amp ever
That's
again.
That's all you need anymore.
Yep. Yeah, so that's how I kind of got into being an actor. It was kind of by accident, because I got involved in the theater at college. I went to High Point University, and they had a really good theater program.
That's super cool. What university was it? Mind me asking.
High Point University, and it's down in North Carolina, and it was a small liberal arts school when I was there. This is I graduated high school in '88. And then I graduated from college in '92.
Yeah.
And at the time, the school was going through lots of changes. It was like a really small liberal arts school. And then all this money came pumping into it. And then they started building all this stuff. And of course, all the cool stuff was built after I left.
Oh yeah.
the brand new facilities for the arts department, for theater.
You only graduated a couple years after I did, so I know that feeling.
Yeah, and it was funny. When I went to college, I wanted to be a music engineer. I thought, well, maybe I could study music engineering at school.
Yep,
and they had a program, but it by the time I got there, they cut it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was supposed to go to Full Sail and wound up falling into the effects. It's just crazy. Yeah. It's just crazy.
And maybe you're like me. I remember when I was in college, I used to have the pamphlets to Musicians Institute. Did you ever remember that?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I used to sit in my dorm looking at the pamphlets, going, "Oh man, I want to go hang out on Sunset Boulevard."
Yeah. Of course. And that's where I was when you were doing that. So
right. Yeah. You were living the dream. Yeah. And then I got mixed up in making movies and stuff. I moved to New York out of college, and then I got involved in the New York theater scene, and then I did a bunch of independent stuff, lots of commercials, lots of voiceover work, lots of weird little industrial films, where you'd have to training films and things like that. But that was a great way to learn how to work in front of a camera.
Sure.
And that's kind of how I learned. I learned film acting on the job. I've never taken a film acting class. It's always just.
Well, I think New York is really a good market for that. There's so much going on there all the time.
Now there is. Back in the '90s, there really wasn't a whole lot happening. Yeah, they only had a couple of shows that were on air at the time, and then they had Cosby and they had all the soap operas and all that. And I think they had Law and Order when I was there. But everything else was being shot in LA.
Right.
And I lived in New York until, I moved out here in 2001 in Los Angeles. So I was in New York for almost 10 years, and it was a struggle. Lots of independent stuff though. But as far as network TV shows, none of them there weren't a lot at the time.
And so your college and you're moving to New York and all of that sort of led you to decide to create your own film, or is that kind of what brought you to that?
Well, what happened was when I came out to Los Angeles, I didn't have like the experience that I had in New York, like the footage that I had from a lot of the projects and stuff was good. And I was able to get an agent pretty quick when I moved out to LA.
Right.
But then
there's no shortage of agents.
Right. Yeah. But then there was a big strike.
Right.
And that kind of shut things down for a long time. And then when I got back into it, I was, it was hard for people to find a place to put me. They thought, oh, well, he's too young to do this, but he's too old to do that. And I got put in that kind of weird box for a long time. And then I decided, that's it. I'm going to quit. I don't want to do it anymore. You know, if I'm not going to be seen for the things that I want to do. And
right.
And then I started a band again, which was, you know, probably not the smartest thing to do. And I also had, you know, my wife, you know, we had a daughter at the same exact time. My wife opened up our yoga studio, which is where I am right now. And we had a kid, and I started an electro EDM rock and roll band.
Right.
In Los Angeles. And the timing was terrible, but it was a good time. I mean, we had fun. The band was cool, and we had a lot of fun. We did some fun stuff.
Right.
But then when the kid was about 5 years old, and I had a couple of years behind me, I felt like getting back into acting. The band broke up, and I didn't know what to do. 5 years had gone by. I didn't have any like proper footage anymore. My stuff was really, really dated. Yeah. So I thought, okay, well, this is my opportunity to create a vehicle for myself and have people see me the way that I want to be seen. So I cast myself in the lead role of this kind of low-budget CIA spy thriller that me and a bunch of actors that I know and other filmmakers cranked out over a year. And then I spent another year trying to learn how to do all the post-production on it. And then I finally put it out.
Go ahead and tell everybody the title, just because I want people to access that. I think it's a good film. I really enjoyed it.
Man, I appreciate it. It's called The Rolling Soldier. Yeah. And it's a digital web series. And you can find it on Tubi. You can find it on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'll give you the link. So I don't know if you have show notes, I can always just put it in your link.
Absolutely. I did a little bit of research, and you won a couple of awards for that too, right?
Yeah. What's funny about the whole thing was, you know, I only wanted to shoot a pilot because I just needed footage. I didn't want to create this series. And then what happened was I showed the pilot to some people, and they were like, this is great. What happens next? And I'm like, I don't know, man. You know. Then I had to develop this whole thing, and which was great and a lot of fun. And I got to, you know, not only I acted, directed, produced. I wrote all the music. I did all the post production on it. The only thing I didn't do was hold the camera. The guy who did the camera work, Sergio Crego, is a great guy. We also had Joya Speciale do the pilot. She was the camera operator for the pilot. They did a great job. She's an Emmy winner for the show Intervention. She is one of the camera people that's in the rooms with those people on that Intervention show. So she's hardcore.
Very good.
So yeah, and then it went around the world and won awards. We won best thriller in Vancouver. We won best drama in New York. Mm-hmm. We won best drama in Austin. I won an award at the New Jersey web series for best actor. And yeah, it was nominated. It did really well all over. And the web series world is a really cool little world. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced those events and met any of those filmmakers, but there's some really creative, really cool things going on in the web series world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit after that period and getting all around that, was that close to when you wrote Dark Road?
The Dark Road, that was a project that I created with Carly Street, and we we had this idea about a time traveling, a guy who time travels, and he's a gangster, and he gets thrown into the future and gets wrapped up in all kinds of stuff. And it was a great concept. I think it was a cool idea. We tried to shoot a short film of it, so I could cut together a trailer to try to pitch it.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of ran out of steam, and then COVID hit us, and that just COVID just really put the kibosh on it, to be honest. And people start to lose interest, and then,
I know how it goes.
I mean, it and you know what? I'll be honest about it. It was, it made, it really kind of hit me kind of hard, because I hadn't really felt like that kind of, defeat, I think,
right,
yet. And it was like, I felt really good about this one, and it just didn't happen. And I was like, oh my God. So
yeah,
I was a little bit surprised that there was a little bit of a, I couldn't get it off the ground. I tried really hard, and I just, sometimes you just can't do it.
I don't know about that. I think sometimes that the timing's just wrong, and you just got to push it another time.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not dead yet. I mean, I'd still like to be able to kind of, resuscitate it with the right people. Nick.
Well, we'll have to talk about that offline.
Yeah. So yeah, we can talk about it. I have a couple things I want to talk to you about, actually.
Cool.
So I tried to make a show and sell it, and tried to ride out that, the good luck that I had on my previous project, and it just didn't really pan out. We tried to make it a horror kind of genre, time travel thing.
Sure.
And it had some killer horror elements to it, and we just couldn't make it happen. It's just one of those things,
Now you never know.
Yeah, well, it's not dead, like I said. It's kind of it's on hiatus, in developmental hell.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your time on General Hospital. That was a new one for me.
Yeah. It's funny. I get cast on the soaps every once in a while, and I think, like, maybe I'm different, but I think there's a lot of actors that don't want to do soap opera work, but
right.
I enjoy it because it's live, basically. It's kind of like you get one take usually.
Yeah.
And it moves so fast, and it's so funny, and like, the world that you can't help but start to fall into that soap acting
right.
kind of thing, because if you try to do anything else outside of that, it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't go in there like Daniel Day-Lewis and be all methody on a soap set. It just doesn't work,
No, I'm sure it keeps you on your toes for sure.
Oh, totally, yeah. Because a lot of times what happens is they'll switch the script up on soap actors like 5 minutes before they go on. They'll give them like all new pages, and that's why sometimes the language, the dialogue is a little clunky on those shows. But
right.
they're fun. They're fun shows. I mean, they're guilty pleasures, and the people that work on those shows, there's a reason they stay on for a long time. It's because those shows, those people, they're good to work on. Those soap opera crews are great guys, and they've been working there forever, and it's always a good experience.
Right.
But General Hospital is one that I've been doing recently. I've done 3 episodes of General Hospital now.
Right on.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. I'm sure it really, knowing that they still do it live is kind of wild, because
it's not live. I mean, what they're doing is they're shooting so many setups during the day that literally you're going from one scene to the next to the next to the next.
Yeah, it's almost like live to tape types thing.
Yeah,
right. Exactly. It's live to tape. Yeah. So I mean, if it was live, I would be watching soap opera every single day.
Yeah, they're slamming these things together for sure.
It would be amazing. That would be amazing.
Yeah, it's almost as fast paced as like a news environment, right?
Yeah. I mean, if things can turn on a dime and or get cut out, or
now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's right, TJ. You know all about that now, don't you?
Yes, I just recently started my job in TV, so.
Very good.
Yeah. TV is unpredictable.
Very much so.
So let's go back a little bit.
Sure.
Now that we got the General Hospital question out of the way. No, don't worry. I didn't lose respect for you. I love you. I love you.
Okay. All right.
You're an awesome actor. I think.
Hey, I will fight
awesome
for soap actors.
I think it's awesome that you did that. I've worked with soap actors through my career, and they've, in film, and it's very different when they're on a film versus on the television. It's a totally different environment.
Yeah, 100%.
So, anyhow, let's go back and talk about like Lucifer and American Horror Story.
Okay, cool.
Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, let's see. I guess we'll start with Lucifer because that came before American Horror Story. I got the audition for this part. It was a guest star, but sometimes these roles don't have names, so you get like Grizzled
Cop number
Cop,
one
or Cop number one. They called me Grizzled Cop, and which I thought was pretty good. And so I went down, and this was back when we went to auditions in casting directors' offices. Now it's not like that at all.
Now it's all virtual. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, we're all ourselves on self-tape. We're doing like Zoom callbacks and that kind of thing, and that's another like thing that we could talk about. But so Lucifer, I go in and I felt like I connected to the material really well. I mean, I like playing kind of reluctant hero guys. I like playing scrappy kind of characters, and I thought this was a fun character to do. So I go in and I audition for it. And I go full out, and I must have dropped a line or something because I remember that I wasn't happy about the audition at all. She was like, "Okay, that was great. Yeah, we'll see you. Thanks for coming in." And I walked out the door, I grabbed my bag, I walk out the door, I go around the corner, and this is on the Warner Brothers lot. So, I was so angry, but I didn't want anybody to see how pissed off I was. I went around the corner and I kicked the wall really, really hard. So nobody could see me. And then I just kind of was like slunk away and got in my car and drove home. And I was about halfway home and they called me and booked me on the gig.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was like a really fast turnaround too. So I was like, holy shit. I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. Fun. And then what happened with that was went down there. I go down, I do the table read with the cast and the crew, which was fantastic. I mean, they're all there. They all show up for their writers. So you've got, Tom Ellis and you've got Lauren German and what's her name? Who else was there? The really beautiful blonde Cylon from Battlestar Galactica. What's her name again? You know what I'm talking about?
You got me. TJ?
I'm sorry, I'm a Star Trek, Star Wars guy.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm sure you've seen the posters of the Cylon. Yeah. She's in the show. I can't remember her name right now. It's really bothering me. But so she was there at the read through and great cast, great crew, got to shoot it, had a lot of fun with a lot of pyrotechnics on stage on the set, and walked away from it feeling great. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. This will look good. People, hopefully it'll kind of open up a couple doors for me. Then Fox decides to cancel Lucifer flat out and not air my episode. And I got super pissed off, and as did other like fans of the show. And what was funny was I wasn't really a fan of the show yet. I only watched some of the show as material to prepare for the audition.
Yep.
But then I went back and kind of caught up on things up to that point. I was like, oh, this is a really fun show. Yeah. And so I go on Twitter, to bitch about the show getting canceled, and of course, like. And of course, like the whole like Twitterverse is exploding about Lucifer, and then this hashtag Save Lucifer starts trending, and it's like
that's the best.
Awesome,
the most insane thing ever. And so I kind of jumped on and I told everyone, I'm like, hey guys, this is John Tague. I just did an episode of the show, and I'm bummed out that it's not going to get shown. If there's anything I can do to help you guys spread the word to try to get the show saved, let me know.
Right.
And, didn't really think much about it. Woke up the next day with like 4,000 new followers and like a bazillion messages and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, it was like so overwhelming, but like so, it was so kind of like, it was great because it made me realize how powerful a fandom can be.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
And just how nice people are in general. You know what I mean? There's some wacky people out there too, but in general, like fandoms, like people that come together over something that they love, they're generally nice people.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of what I got to experience with that fandom. And then they did this whole campaign to, save the show, and I helped jump on there and got some attention going, for it. And then they nominated me for best guest star on the East Scoop Daily Awards or something. So I was up against like Neil Gaiman and the guy who wrote Hamilton, your man, what's his name? I can't remember his name. You know who I'm talking about. Right. So I got nominated with those guys, and I lost to Neil Gaiman, but I'll take that L.
Yeah, that's all right.
They did this whole thing for me to try to get me back on the show too, and so it was just such a nice group of people that are behind that whole Lucifer fan base.
Yeah,
and they've been really good to me over the years, so it's been really nice.
That's awesome.
Is that a Netflix thing now?
Yeah, it's on Netflix now. They're not shooting any more episodes right now. It's finished. But you never know. They might bring it back someday for.
Well, they're not shooting anything in general right now, but that's for a good reason.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It's about to get rough. I'm lucky. I have a gig that I'm going off to Atlanta to do next over Memorial Day weekend, over the long weekend. Going out to shoot something in Atlanta.
Right.
And then after that, it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going to happen because, SAG is going to go on strike if they get the votes.
Yep.
And with SAG and the writers on strike, I mean, that's pretty much it.
Going to make it impossible to make anything. Yep. It already isn't that easy right now anyway.
The reality revolution's upon us again.
And just like with in general, like the climate right now is weird, like worldwide with, making anything right now is really, really tough, I think, like on a large scale,
Yeah.
So I wish it wasn't that way. And I hope the unions, I hope they can stick together and figure it out because this AI stuff is really, really crazy.
And AI, and I think just streaming in general, and I think that's kind of like a repeating topic on this podcast, is just the way that streaming in general has affected the entertainment industry, whether that be music, film, television. And we can see that here with the WGA writer strike right now. And like you said, SAG's going to join in on it. It just, streaming has changed the game and changed how everybody's getting paid. And it's something that sadly society or Hollywood or TV hasn't changed with the times to account for that. It sucks because you're seeing all these creatives struggle because they're not getting paid their dues in a time where it's easy to click play. It's the easiest and it's the most accessible time to access content, but people are getting paid the least amount for it. It's insane to think about.
Exactly. The studios are making such huge profits. I mean, it's outrageous.
Yep.
It really, really is. And the writers deserve everything that they should get.
Absolutely.
Yep. Absolutely.
And like actors like me, who kind of every once in a while depend on a residual check.
Yeah.
We're getting completely screwed.
Yes.
So, unless they figure it out, because I mean, look, I get like residual checks for like, here's your $2 residual check for an episode of CSI I did, or like sometimes like a 15-cent thing for like, I don't even know what it was, they need to straighten it out. The streaming thing is just, it's great for content creators and it's great, for that. And I love the fact that there's so much work now and there's so much, variety and things to choose from. Well, for the most part, but at the same time, it's like, come on, man, you're making so much money.
Yeah.
You got to take care of people, or else.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, technologically, it's actually better technologically because they can track every single stream. They can actually create the demographics from that data. They can extract that for advertising. Like, there's so much more there to make money, but they're not paying the fucking creatives, and that's annoying.
Right. Use the AI to track all that shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that pisses me off.
Yeah, it's not okay because all of the actors, all the creatives, all the writers keeping that stuff out there are getting screwed.
Right.
And it's not fair.
But like you said, it should be AI assisted, not AI created. And
exactly. Look, I think it's look, I'm guilty of using AI. I use it all the time. I'm constantly like trying to learn how to do stuff, and like, so AI is a great tool for that. And I think that, with artists, especially like, visual artists, I'm really worried about those guys.
Yep.
Like colorists and that's going to be, it's going to change it's changing every industry.
Affects people. It affects everyone. Yeah. It really does.
I mean, I do get it because a good buddy of mine, he used to be one of the head animators over at Disney, and he was telling me, he's like, I think people are looking at it in the wrong way. I'm like, well, what way should we be looking at it? And he's like, well, people need to look at it like, like the printing press or like the invention of the pencil. It's like, it's just another tool that we're going to have to learn how to use. And I was like, that's really, I think that's true, but there's people that are unscrupulous. You don't give a shit.
Yeah. Absolutely. It has to be used in the right way. And it's going to be so easy to go around things for a while. Kind of like the advent of CG, like it was used very heavily as a producer's tool
but in the early days, nobody really liked it, and it wasn't until later on when it kind of got really like when, I guess, Star Wars, when they did the prequels, when it was like, oh shit, or like Jurassic Park and all that,
Yeah, exactly. And we, a lot of artists thought they were going to be replaced, much like with AI now. And it's all about how it gets used. I'm sure it has a space that it needs to fall into. It's the navigating to that scares me, because I think it's going to be viewed as something that will replace a bunch of people that are a huge cost, and then they just make more profits.
Yeah. But let me ask you this, Nick. I've noticed a trend over the last couple of years that more and more, big films are using practical effects.
That is a trend, very much so.
Is that still happening, or is it just not?
Yes, it is. And I believe, honestly, it's audience driven, because I feel like if the audience hadn't have kind of screamed about, hey, where's the practical stuff? You're using all CG, that they would have continued to do so.
Hell, Nick, you just did a bunch of practical stuff, didn't you?
Yeah. And I would say that, it's safe to say that, like, there is, I've said this for years, the right mix is both working together, and it works.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You just said Jurassic Park. That's a good example.
Yeah, Jurassic Park has always been my go-to for that, because it was a perfect storm.
Do you think that was the first film that really got it right?
Yeah.
I do. I really do. And I think that is an example, because even today you watch that movie, it still holds up. It's an amazing film to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely going to be, with AI, there's going to be a navigating through the path. And I'm just afraid of how many years it might take, just like CG, before they figure out, oh, well, we shouldn't have done this.
Well, right now there's a vague, we don't get political on this show, but there's a big push in politics right now to kind of get some legislative around it, because I believe the creator of the main AI that's used in all the big corporations right now is very afraid at the rate that it's growing and the rate that it's learning, that we're almost finding ourselves in like a Skynet situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Where it's getting too big too quickly, because so many corporations are integrating it into their software. And most of these corporations are social media. And what's the biggest growing market right now? Social media. So it's just crushing everything right now. And like, you guys are talking, like, once it starts getting into the entertainment business, it's game over for a lot of these.
It's already there. It's already here. We're just now, like,
I haven't had a conversation in the last 2 months that hasn't
Had that in there. Yeah.
Chat GPT.
Mhm.
You know, and that's a whole AI platform that everyone seems to be using for just about everything now.
Yeah.
And to refer to one of our earlier episodes to kind of follow up on when we had Kurt on, something that he brings up about Kurt Shirelli is the fact that AI uses existing art on the internet and kind of steals from artists. And that's just absurd as well.
Yep.
Yeah. But I think there's also, there's some AI that is generating original art, but it's got to reference. Yeah, I mean,
it's got to reference something.
Other things, yeah.
Excuse me.
The database is the internet, and anything that's public gets taken from.
And here's a question for writers out there. Let's say you write a very detailed synopsis for a story, and then you put that into a AI and say, "Hey, can you translate this into a script format for me?" You know what I mean? Yeah. Does the AI then own that, or do you own that story? Because
the AI,
that's where it gets very gray area.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it depends. It can, I think a lot of writers are going to use it as a tool. Like, okay, give me, a one sheet on, a rundown, quick pitch, like that kind of thing. But when they start asking it to write dialogue and things like that, that's when we're in trouble.
Yep.
But
it is a little scary, but it's not. I don't see it as really being a whole lot different than the CG Avenue. It's just a much bigger, scarier monster because
we have to learn and adapt.
Yeah, it teaches itself, and we don't know how big it can get. So, we have to be careful what we do with it.
Yeah, just be nice to it. Always be nice to the Chat GPT, OpenAI. Just always don't get on its bad side.
You will be spared when we take over.
Like telling your Alexa to go fuck itself kind of thing.
Right. It's like angering
for a bad night.
Right. It's like angering the new gods,
Yeah.
You don't want to anger them. Like you're going to start outside of volcanoes and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It's scary business if you really think about it.
Yeah, it is a little scary, but I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. I just hope that we kind of
let's regulate it.
Yeah.
It's got to get regulated for sure. Somebody's got to have their finger on the switch and be like, okay, that's enough.
It's a machine. Absolutely. There should be an off switch somewhere.
Right. Let's unplug it.
Just unplug it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So yesterday I went to the Cruel World Festival.
Yeah.
Out in Pasadena.
I heard it got shut down because lightning.
It did. It was. I was walking. I went with my daughter, and we were walking. There's many stages. So
yeah,
of course, I had the bands I want to see are all on the complete opposite sides of.
Sure.
Of the map. So, we went and I wanted to see a little bit of Human League.
Yeah.
And then, we ran over to go check, to catch Iggy. And as soon as we got there, they shut it down.
Yeah.
And, but up to that point, the whole day was really, really great. There was a lot of great bands. We saw, Berlin, Terry Nunn. She looked amazing.
Yep. She's doing great these days.
Oh my God!
Band sounds really great.
The band sounded awesome.
Yeah, I saw Berlin here.
They were really good. Who else? After that, it was Modern English, who were great. Echo and the Bunnymen, who bailed out last year because Liverpool was in the Champions League, and they decided to just not. They just were like, "Fuck it, we're not coming."
Right.
And they were great. They were really great. And Ian McCulloch, of course, got more hammered as the show went on and started, just yelling at the band. And it was classic. It was just great. And then who did we see after that? And then we saw Billy Idol. And Billy Idol was great. Yeah, it was Steve Stevens, and it was so cool. But then I was bummed because I wanted to see Susie and Iggy.
Yeah.
And
you can go back today, as I understand, to see.
I know, but I'm talking to you. No.
She's not on yet, dude. She's not on till tonight. Not till late tonight.
No, my kid has a show tonight.
Oh, man.
Yeah, my kid has a show tonight, so we got to go. I got to go see her at her show. She's a kick-ass little actress and singer, man.
Yeah.
She's hot on my heels. I think she's going to have a better career. I do. I think she's going to have a better career than I have. So that was fun. That was yesterday for me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's cool seeing those old bands, you know? What was really impressive was Modern English to me, because I'm not really familiar with a lot of their catalog, but that After the Snow album, I know that album really well. And they're all up there banging it out, man. Like, you know, like these guys, I'd never seen them live, and I was like, damn, these guys are road ready. Like these guys are good.
Yeah.
I was impressed, man. Yeah, it was cool. It was a good crowd too. It was a nice day. It was beautiful. It was just one of those great days.
Yeah. You know who else I saw recently that they're still just amazing was Psychedelic Furs.
Oh my God. Yeah. Hell yeah. They're amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw Winger 2 weeks ago, and they were badass.
You did. That's right. TJ. You saw a whole bunch of great 80s metal.
Where did you see that? Where was that?
Baltimore, Maryland. They had the M3 Rock Festival, and it was like 80s hair metal, and it was incredible.
Oh, that's awesome.
I got to see Quiet Riot, and it was just awesome. Speaking of Quiet Riot,
were you guys there?
Yeah.
Were you there together?
No, I went by myself with my fiance, actually. Speaking of Quiet Riot, we're actually having Rudy Sarzo on this podcast. A little preview for an upcoming episode. That's going to be awesome.
He's a badass bass player, man. He's been when I was a kid, I remember seeing his picture in all those bass player magazines. And
man, I like to call him the Jaco Pastorius of metal.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think he's great.
He did this
Ozzy was great.
Bass solo during The Wild, the Young, and the Free. And it was incredible. He went absolute ham. I sent Nick a video of it, and it was breathtaking.
Awesome.
This guy is still ripping on that bass. It's awesome.
That's great, man. Yeah. That's so cool. I love hearing that. That's so cool.
I got a couple questions for you, John. Wind things down here. So, do you have any personal rituals before you do a show audition?
Oh my God! Before an audition,
like, do you rub yourself down with steak sauce or anything like that? Anything really weird?
I lather myself up in DEET, and then I roll around in the dirt. What do I do? You know what it is? It's like as soon as I get the sides, what I try to do is I try to read the sides without like being the character in my head.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm trying to like look at what is the scene about? Who are these people? Because like a lot of times when you get an audition, you don't really get any information about what the character is.
Yeah.
Like the information I get now is in the breakdown. It's like 50s to 60s, white, Caucasian, Asian, black. It's all these different things, and then it says, we'll do anything for his family. Like, okay, it's like that kind of thing. So I try to like come up with as much as I can, like get, or I try to get from as much from the page as much as I can, and then I have to fill it in with the imagination and try to make something work. But a lot of times it's hard because a lot of times I don't connect to the material at all.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's when it's, and you want to be a professional because your agent has spent time, your agent managers have spent time trying to get you this audition, and of course.
Well, I'm sure that's like one of the more challenging things is if you're not connecting with the character that you're playing, makes it harder to actually lock into it,
Well, there was this one audition I had. I won't mention the show, but it is a pretty big show on one of the major networks. And they wanted me, the part was a pedophile priest.
Ooh, brutal.
Right. And there's like exposure happening, and there's like all these, and I remember when I got the audition, I was like, oh my God, And then the note that I got with it from my agent was, "You signed up for this." You know?
Jeez.
Go to work. You know?
Oh boy.
So I had to go down and audition. I went on. It was a big studio lot. I had to go down to the audition. Had to do the scene. Didn't have to disrobe or anything like that during the audition or anything, but it does happen in the scene. But they didn't make me do it in the audition. But thank God I didn't get the part. And the worst part about it was I was sitting in the waiting room waiting to go on, and I felt like I was on death row. Nobody nobody in that room wanted to be there. Nobody.
Yeah, no.
And then I'm sitting there, and then a good buddy of mine walks in, auditioning for the same part, and I was like, oh, God.
It's not a part where you go, hey, yeah, I was the pedophile priest in this show. You know what I mean?
Right. And, those are roles that, like, I have a hard,
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And it's funny, I recently, are you guys familiar with the actor Peter Mullen? He's a Scottish actor. He's pretty well known. He's in like all the Harry Potter movies, and he's in, what else? He did a good horror movie. What was it called? I think it was called Section 9, I think, about a guy in an insane asylum.
Okay.
Anyway, you might know that one. But he's been in a lot of things. I was talking to him, and he was telling us that he had just done something down in New Zealand where he had to play a pedophile, and they had to do the simulated sex, and they had to do all that. And I was like, wow, I said, how do the parents, or how do they do it with when there's a kid in the scene? Like, how do they protect the kid from all this? He's like, we do like a close up and then a cut, and the kid isn't even on set anymore.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, that's intense. Like, those are roles that I mean, yeah, they're incredibly like meaty, like, roles to jump into, but it's like putting on like a slime like suit or something.
Oh,
it's
sure.
like,
You feel like you need a shower every time you go home.
You just don't want to be that guy. You don't want to walk into, you don't want to go to Ralph's and be like, hey, there's the pedophile from
no, exactly. That's a genuine concern. Like,
right. I mean, like Ray Fiennes had that problem when he did Schindler's List.
Yeah.
Everyone's they're like, oh, there's the Nazi from Schindler's List.
Yeah. And to speak kind of on that, I don't think that I have anything. Well, I guess I do. Like, I have a script called Phobia, and I think you know a little bit about that one. And that has
I don't know much.
Really heavy subject matter in it, and it's a very, very much a social commentary as much as it is a horror film. But it addresses racism and homophobia and all kinds of stuff. And there's rape sequence in it that's really graphic, and it's like, and one of the things I decided early on is, in directing this and talking to the producer that I'm working with about it, was, if we do this, I want to have therapists on set, because it's not easy stuff to portray. And sometimes, and I don't know what your methodology is, but like, there are some actors that they literally put that suit on and they don't necessarily take it off. And sometimes they go home with that and they carry that weight.
It's hard. It's hard to shake it. It's hard.
Yeah. Like, it can be really good for a performance, but it can really fuck with your persona,
Yeah, absolutely. It's because your brain doesn't know the difference.
Right.
You know what I mean? Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between what's fake and what's real. If you ever put a VR set on your head, that's the first dead giveaway. Like, your brain is completely oblivious to the fact that it's not real. To your brain, it's real.
Yeah.
So yeah, like when actors get, really psychologically and like go deep into the character and stuff, I've done that, and it's hard to shake it. And like, I think it's a good idea to have people on set for that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And I know, like, the new thing now, especially, the what are they called? They're called intimacy coordinators.
Yeah.
Are like a new thing in Hollywood that it's about fucking time.
Yeah.
That they had something like that, because a lot, like I've done love scenes and it's like, it's really awkward. Like,
oh, sure.
What are we doing? Like, I mean, it can get,
yeah, but I don't think a lot of people realize what goes into that. Like you're showing up on set and you don't know this person. You're supposed to do a love scene with them. And you might have had a table read or two with them or something, but like to have to get into it the way that they get into it now,
right?
Is really awkward and uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure for both parties, and it's a big switch for an actor to have to jump into something like that.
Oh yeah, man. It's there's nothing sexy about it. I don't care how attractive the two people are. It's like,
it's funny that you say that, because I think the only way to really bring it into perspective for like an audience that just watches movies and they don't understand the movie making process or the television process or the filmmaking process. It's like you're in this situation with this other person you don't really know, and yet you have like 100 fucking people around you trying to shoot this, light this, get everything.
And if you're lucky, the guy will say, "All right, we'll keep it a closed set."
Well, yeah, and then even at a closed set, you still have a certain amount of people around you that are watching you do this.
Shoving a microphone.
So it's a really, really uncomfortable situation to have to put yourself into.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me to get that out to the general audience, because most people that aren't filmmakers don't understand that.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing, and you always have to have women. Always have to have other women on set for their protection, so they can have an advocate. I think that's really important.
It's absolutely vital.
Yeah. I mean, it's making movies. It's funny, the amount of stuff that goes into it. I think would blow people's mind that aren't that familiar with the process. I mean, I'm not saying we're curing cancer or anything like that, but I mean, like, making good quality entertainment is fucking hard, man.
Yeah, it is. It's actually nice to sit back and with your coworkers and your movie family or your television family and look at what you've created together.
Yeah.
It's always a great feeling, but there's still all of that had to be done to get there. And like I said, one of the things that I get concerned about as a aspiring director is, with that film in particular, is that my actors feel safe.
Yeah.
Because it can be such an uncomfortable thing, and there is some really uncomfortable stuff that happens, especially now.
Yeah, I mean, they have to trust you. You have to and trust is earned totally. The relationship between a director and an actor, there's got to be a lot of trust, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. That's all the more reason why I demand to have all these people around, like therapists and people to talk to and people to make them feel safe in the situation. Because like, when you have to put yourself in that scenario, like, as uncomfortable as it is, you have to make it believable.
Yeah.
And whether it's a love scene or, like let's use Phobia as an example, there's a rape scene in it, and it's really uncomfortable. It's really awkward. It's really scary to a degree. And you're trying to pull that emotion out of the actor as a director. You're trying to pull that emotion out of them, and they're trying to give you everything they have. And that in itself, in that, whether it's, 2 takes or 20 takes that it takes to get it, it can be grueling.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely grueling. I have seen,
especially if there's a lot of physicality involved too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've seen talent walk out of a scene. I've seen talent walk out of a scene in tears because they're just so affected by what they're trying to do. And they need a minute, and it's important, man. It's just,
and and they're giving it 100% for you too, so, they deserve to have that time, after they're done with a take or, whatever to kind of just, get themselves together and reset and do it again.
100%.
It's very hard to be like, okay, let's just go again right away. That can be, but that happens all the time.
Oh, I know. I know it does.
Sun's going down. We got to get it. It's like, come on, let's go.
That's why, early on in my partnership with the guys I'm making films with now, it was like critical for me to say, if you're going to work with me, this is how it has to be, because my actors, my crew, everybody has to feel safe. Everybody has to feel like they're taken care of.
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody to feel for a moment that they're not comfortable or safe.
Absolutely. You were saying earlier that your film that you're working on now is, you're touching on a lot of, pretty hot topics at the moment. It's interesting to me when, like, with horror films in particular, I love how certain horror films are holding up the mirror to what's going on in society, much like,
right.
Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre did. Like that, to me, because I recently watched that again, feels very much like, and I've read this also, but it feels very anti-Vietnam War. It feels like there's that element there.
Right.
I feel that angsty kind of element in that film. And like, I think a lot of those films at that time were reflective of what was happening. What are you seeing in horror right now that is starting to kind of pop its head up as a topic?
Can I answer this?
Yeah, go for it.
Sure, yeah.
The war on culture.
Culture wars, yeah.
The clash that's going on right now in society is very prevalent in a lot of horror films, and I think that's also affecting the way that they are being received at the box office, because the people who feel so firmly about this way won't go watch a film that they know feels a certain way. I think it's very divisive within horror right now, and you see films suffering because of that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's definitely, and that's where myself as someone who was offered to direct this film, and I want to direct it. At first, I was very unsure of doing it, only because
is this the first film you've directed?
Yeah, it would be.
Or you're going to direct? Okay, cool.
Yeah, it would be my
right
first, and it may be my last.
Why not?
But I have to say, whether it is my first, or, whether it is my last or not, that doesn't it doesn't sway me at this point. It did at first. It doesn't sway me at this point from wanting to do it, because I feel that it is a message in it that needs to be, like you said, it holds up a mirror. And I think that there's something about that is so much more disturbing. And that's what I wanted to get from it. Was I want the audience to leave very uncomfortable in understanding that this is still a problem. This is not something we've solved. We've come hundreds of years away from these things, and we're still fucked up.
Yes. Yeah. So when you say walk away from it feeling uncomfortable, I'm trying to let me understand what that means. The last film that I walked out of where I felt really, really uncomfortable was the film Under the Skin. I don't know if you guys have seen that. That film, I've seen that film once. I don't ever need to see it again. I could not shake some of the images from that film.
Right.
And I'm a big David Lynch fan, so imagery doesn't really bother me that much. But that scene with the kid on the beach as the tide is coming in, I thought, oh my God, this is. I couldn't.
Yeah, I've walked away from a film like that before. Seven was one of those.
Oh, it's an A24 movie. Okay.
I walked away from that film. I'd never want to see it again. A great movie.
I know.
I never want to see it again.
No, yeah, exactly the same. And I'll tell you another funny story. Well, it's not that funny, but I feel the same way about Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah.
Because after I remember the first time I had ever seen that film was on TV, and I was watching it. It was like on a Sunday afternoon, and I got a phone call that a friend died right after the film ended. I was like, oh, never watching that movie again.
Yeah.
You know?
It's interesting though, because like I do have films that are fun, and I have stuff in the queue that's like really fun, but that's a really like, I decided early on, like we could have gone two ways with the script, because it's a nod to a 1970s film that was made.
Cool.
And we kind of talked about it early on with my writers, and it was like, okay, well, we can either lean really hard into social issues that are addressed in this thing, or we can go more of a campy comedic kind of direction with it. And I said, you know what?
Go social. Totally.
I said, go social, because I think that like, first of all, it differs from the other projects we're working on. Second of all, I think it's necessary. And now more than ever, it's necessary.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm trying to win any awards with it. I'm not. I'm just trying.
But there's also an audience for it, I think. I mean, if you look at the like films like Nope or Get Out, like people are down for that, and it's good material too. That's the other thing. Like that's that's fertile ground. Like I think there's a lot of good material in that stuff.
Sure, but I'm excited to share it. But this isn't about me. This is about you.
We're having a conversation.
So let's kind of, we got to probably start wrapping this up, I think. But
okay.
What's like the best advice anyone's ever given you about acting?
I just saw something recently that Dennis Hopper said.
Ooh.
That I really kind of connected with. And he said that a lot of actors, when they're working, they're not in it. They're just not in it. They're just thinking about their lines and, where their mark is, and, is their face in the light? They're never really fully in it. And he said that, like if somebody gives you like a watch in the scene, and you take the watch and you hold it and you look at it, you should know what time it says. You know what I mean? So I think what he means by that is paying attention to the details as much as you possibly can. And, you're in it. You're in the scene. You're in the flow of it, the other thing would be like, just try to get off book as quickly as you can and start working on the internal work, because you're still fucking around with like the dialogue, like learning the lines and stuff by the time you get to shooting. It's so much harder. It really is.
Yeah.
And then you look unprepared and you just got to always be ready to go. And that's the way I look at it. And the other thing is, like for me, don't quit. I mean, I wouldn't get into this gig if I was going to do this right now, I wouldn't do it because I think it's too competitive and it doesn't pay like it used to.
Right.
But if you are going to do it, you've got to commit. People want to see people committed 100% to things, and you can always tell when they're not. You can tell when somebody's phoning it in or just not really there.
Yep.
So it's about being honest with the work, really, more than anything, I think. That would be my advice.
That's awesome.
I could be a smart ass and tell everyone to take Fountain Avenue.
Well, thank you, John, so much for sharing your stories with us today. We're
thank you.
Happy to have you.
You guys are the best, and anything I can ever do to help you guys, get the word out about what you guys are doing, let me know. I'm excited to hear what's going to be coming from you guys in the future.
Awesome.
Same here, man. Thank you for coming on today. It was a true pleasure to hear all of those stories, and thank you for the advice for all those listeners out there. If you are an actor or an actress going for that, please listen to that advice. That is sound advice, and that is a good clip. Thank you for that. I'm going to put that shit on Instagram. But thank you for listening to another episode of HyPODermic, the pod that sticks you deep. I've been the pod boss, TJ Bowser. That's the maestro of mayhem, Nick Benson. That's John Tague. Is that how I say it?
Tague.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
that's
I
right.
said it right. Excellent. Taking you guys out. See you next week. Hopefully. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye.